Welcome back to the Inclusion Revolution here on Eastlink Television. Just before we broke, I was telling you a little bit about where to find us and when to find us. And I know that I had spoken about Monday nights at 9, but actually on break, Paul reminded me that we're also getting replay or repeated Sunday nights at 8, is it, Paul?
Correct.
So just think. You can watch it, think about the show, and then bring everybody in and have dialogue on Sunday nights. It gives you lots of time. And of course, you can tape it. In addition, I should tell you that all of our Inclusion Revolution episodes are also going to be aired nationally on Voice Print Radio. And we're very excited about taking our message across the country because, again, as a community with the highest per capita percentage of persons with disabilities who self-identify, we do have a responsibility to be leaders in disability awareness, disability education, and of course inclusion of our community. So with that in mind, we've talked a little bit about what the show is, a little bit about our message and why we're here, and I thought that I'd give Paul a chance, because he hasn't said too much in case you haven't noticed, to sort of see where what Paul thinks we need to tell you about. Paul?
Tova, one thing the viewers might be interested in is how did you get involved in the Inclusion Revolution? Why did you bring Inclusion Revolution to the table?
Well, first of all, I'll be honest with you, I love alliteration. So the sound of Inclusion Revolution worked for me. But obviously it's much more than that. Right. The reality is that I am a person from a family of persons who live with all types of disabilities. My mother lives with cancer, has had a few cancers. Mm-hmm. She's really, sounds like Stephen Hawking when she talks. Right. You've heard her on the phone, right. I know. But also, in my family, we had kidney disease, we had arthritis, mental health, physical health, invisible, Crohn's. I mean, there was so much going on. And as the youngest of 5 children, interestingly enough, growing up, I was the kid who seemed to be okay. You know, I didn't have any drama. I didn't have to go to the Mayo Clinic. I wasn't getting these big trips to Boston. I wasn't getting opportunities. You know, I didn't have a cane. I didn't have, you know, all kinds of assisted devices. Right. So ironically, I was the kid who'd go to the eye doctor and I'd pretend I couldn't read that chart. You know, the chart that says Made in Mississippi. Well, I could read Made in Mississippi in the next room. Right. But the truth be told, to me, having assistive devices and ultimately a disability seemed like something almost special. But not the kind of special we talked about early, like a gift, because I had nothing. So I'd pretend, I'd beg for glasses, I'd borrow my sister's, you know, cane, I'd you know, want to take my other sister's pretty pills. They tell me when I was very young I took too many pretty pills and I had my stomach bump. Another story. The point is that as a person growing up in a family of persons with disabilities, I frankly didn't understand the stigma society holds when dealing with persons with disabilities. I didn't realize that people were so uncomfortable at my bank that I remember coming in with my mom, who doesn't speak well, at least she does, but people don't understand her that easily, and tellers putting up their next teller sign. I know that person wasn't insensitive. I know that they weren't sure how to handle it, so they chose to avoid it. And we as a society, and certainly part of my revolution personally in going in this direction and working in the nonprofit community and being a disability advocate across the country and bringing disability awareness training to the corporate side of Canada, was all part of my belief that people just don't know what to do, so they're avoiding it in fear of doing something wrong. You know, I always joke about Americans. Of course, they're easy fodder for us Canadians. And if you're hearing me in America, hi, Mom. But the truth be told, that Americans don't like to say, I don't know. When I was in New York, which is where my mother presently resides, I actually could not believe how many times I asked someone for directions. They would always give me directions, but they were always different. So one had to ask, do they really know? Or is the issue they don't like to say the words, I don't know? Part of my revolution, and part of why I started the Inclusion Revolution, was because I believe that there is power in saying, I don't know what to do. And our job, and the job of everybody who joins our Inclusion Revolution, is to tell people it's okay not to know, it's okay to be a little worried about doing something wrong, but it's not okay to avoid as a result. This is where education and research and asking people, how can I best support you? That's power. And too many people are afraid to say, I don't know. And I'm not. I'm afraid to say other things, I can assure you, like I didn't do my homework, but I absolutely believe it's okay. And part of our revolution is to say, I don't know. how can I best help you? How can I best support you? What, because frankly, every person with disability has a pretty good sense of what they need because they've spent their whole life figuring it out. And creative, there's no one more creative than people with disabilities. And again, I look at my family and I look at growing up inside that sort of disability-friendly world. I just didn't know it was.
Right.
And as I became an adult and started to reach out and decide what I was going to do when I grow up, and I'm still working on that, but what I was going to do when I grow up, I realized what I was going to do was let people know it's okay to not know. And that, for me, was something I needed to take to my community. And I know you and I have discussed the importance of being able to say, I don't know. And that's part of the revolution. And again, I grew up with this family of wonderful people who all required different supports, both assistive devices, certain medications, all kinds of different things. So to come into a world where everyone is just so alarmed by minimal accommodation and so nervous about interviewing people with disabilities or incorporate them into the workplace. Come on, everybody, we can do it. And if we can do it together, that's truly an inclusion revolution. And that's why I'm here. I'm here because I believe if you grew up like I did, and in a way you did, because we both have siblings with disability, we grew up understanding disability on a different level, and as a result, we're not afraid to say somebody, I'm not sure how to help you. What can I do? And often it's as simple as holding a door. Right. I always remember somebody saying, oh, yes, I'd love some help, who uses a wheelchair, and the person beginning to push them through the door. And all they really wanted was someone to hold the door open. So often, the second part is we can say, how can I help? Or can I help, being question one. But clearly, question two is, how can I help? And that's something we forget to do. And no matter what you work in, if you're in customer service and you see a person come in with any type of disability that you acknowledge or see, that's clear to you, it's okay to say, I don't know. And that's certainly one of the Inclusion Revolution messages, along with more as you're going to learn in our future episodes. So I think for me, growing up and seeing how people in my world, disability was like something else you dealt with. It's just part of who you are. It doesn't define you. Right. And too many people define their friends, define their family members, define their children as that disability, rather than as a kid who happens to live with Crohn's or whatever that disability might be.
Right.
And especially in the area I find of mental health, people and families are very quick to say, I want to avoid it.
There's an incredible stigma attached with mental health.
In particular. And you and I are going to be delving more into that in future episodes, I know.
Yes.
But the thing we want our listeners to know is every episode of the Inclusion Revolution is based on what we call best practices. What's out there? What's working? Why is it working? What's missing? And how can we as a community bring what's missing forward? And if we can do all of those things, then we are absolutely on the track to building the very revolution without guns, without cute t-shirts like Che Guevara, right. Whatever it takes. So when we come back, I'm hoping we're going to talk a little bit more about our website.
Yes.
And I'm hoping we're going to talk a little bit more about future episodes so we can tell our guests what's coming. And of course, I know you've got some really interesting breaking news, because every episode of Inclusion Revolution is going to include some research that I know you're doing, Paul, on breaking news, medical breakthroughs. What's the latest for persons with disabilities? And I think you're going to love that. So we look forward to seeing you when we come back to talk more about this. This is Inclusion Revolution on Eastlink. Hurry back.